tonight to this webinar. I'm going to be going over the Heritage of Faith collection that Accordance put together that is currently free. So that's going to be my main focus during this webinar. And it's a two-part series. So before I get into all that, I'm going to start the recording, but I just want to say welcome to everyone, and I'm glad you're here. And I hope that you find this webinar beneficial. So I'm going to start the recording. Oh, the recording has already started. Okay, well, that's fine. So tonight, this is part one. And let me turn off my video. And what we're going to do in this particular, I'm hearing myself echo, Linda. Okay. What we're going to do in this particular webinar is just to focus in. For many of you, you might be new to Accordance, and the main thing is whenever you get something new, there's a learning curve, and I understand that. Every time I get into a new vehicle, there's a learning curve. I remember one time I was with this guy, and he said, "I don't want to study with a computer." He's an older guy, really good guy, author. He says, "I don't want to study computers with computers. They're just too technical. I'll never be able to learn them. I don't know how to navigate them, and they're going to be just too hard to use." And so we got into his car, and it was nothing but technology. And I'm going, how in the world are you driving this car? Everything is, you have to press this button, you have to do this and this. And I said, I don't know if I trust driving with you if you don't understand technology, because this car has a lot of technology in it. But, we know today with everything that's going on that information is so quick to get to, and it can rob you of your time with studies that stay with you. You don't want to just find information. You want to find the relevant information, and you want to find materials that stay with you in your mind and in your heart and affect your life. So you can cheat by going to AI and things, but there's nothing that beats you from taking a work and reading it through on your own and highlighting it and taking notes. And so I encourage you to do that. Yes, it's a new technology for many of you, this Accordance program. Some of you have other Bible software perchance, or have used some free Bible software that's online. But Accordance has so many features and so much function that we're not going to cover it because it goes way beyond the average person needs to know. But I do want you to be able to navigate the program and to find it useful for your studies. So tonight we're going to look at primarily the navigation of the program. We will touch on a few things that deal with the modules or the resources that are found in the Heritage Collection. And before we go on, Linda, I'm hearing feedback, or maybe there's a mic that's been unmuted. If you're not muted, please mute yourself, because otherwise we'll get some feedback. Also, to let you know, this is being recorded so that we'll make an upload of it so that you'll have access to it. So again, tonight we're going to look at the navigation, some key things to do within Accordance. And then part two, we're going to look at primarily only the resources and how to really get the most out of those resources for your studies, whether it's a book assignment or whether you're wanting to go into historical works or whether you want to look at theological materials. The Heritage Collection has it all. And so we will take a look at those resources in our following week. And then I'm even thinking about adding one more, because the computer, your Mac or your Windows computer, it does operate differently than like on an iOS iPad. And so might have to do something that would show you how to use your iPad. If that's what you had, you'd still have access to most of those resources and how to access them on your iPad. So anyways, with that, let's get going. And the first thing that I want to do is, it's always good to know that you have a manual, that you have help at your fingertips instantly, wherever you're doing. So there are multiple places within Accordance where you can get help on learning how to do things, from searches to preference setting to organizing your workspaces, your tabs, your zones. And we're going to talk about what those terminologies that I just mentioned, what they are. But the first thing I want to draw your attention to is a little tiny cap. It's tutorials, and if you click on that, you're going to see easy, intermediate, and advanced. These are step-by-step instructions on how to do simple everyday things within Accordance. So if you wanted to know about knowing your library or opening books or opening your preferences, searching, these are some of the basic things that we're going to cover tonight. I like to watch videos, but you can do them step by step. We also have intermediate. We have a thing called a fuzzy command, key command count. All of that is very, very powerful. It's like a rocket ship with the things that you can do within this program. The fact that they're giving it away this month is just amazing because it can do so much. You also have advanced type of step-by-step instructions too, and topics like amplification, comparing text, all of that. So that's a little tutorial button. Also, what you have here is help. So if you're connected to the internet and you click on help, what I'm going to do is it says that you can expand this out into its own window. Right now, it's within Accordance. Now, this window here with this tab is called a zone. And over here in this Bible window, that's called a zone. You can have multiple zones opened up with multiple tabs in each zone. But I don't want to have this inside of the program. I want you to see it full screen. So anytime you're doing a web lookup within Accordance, which we will get to maybe later tonight, but for sure next week, you can expand it out. And once you've expanded it out, you can then go from here to learning everything you want to know about Accordance. So I can go, oh, yeah, so it has all of these different tabs that you can go to learn whatever you want to know. You can see the full context page, and you'll see here it talks almost everything is covered in this online help manual on getting started, basic searches, everything within that context sensitive help. So you can open that up full. Again, to get to that, all you have to do is click on the help, expand it out, and then here it says click here to see full page content. Click on that and you get your table of contents. So the third way to get help is within the program itself. There's a book called Getting Started. To find that, you can open up your library if it's not already opened, and you can click on Getting Started with Accordance. And if you open that book with a double click, you're going to see this book, and you can open up the table of contents, and it talks about all sorts of things like the workspace and library panel and so forth. And there are videos that are associated with these as well. So the three are the tutorial, the help button, the getting started book. And I would also say that if you go to the Accordance website itself and you look at product support, there are videos. There are lots and lots of videos from novice to very advanced videos on sermon preparations, on book studies, on navigation, almost anything you can think of. There are videos using Accordance that you can access. And so many, many ways to learn how to use the program. So now I'm going to close this stuff off, and we're going to focus in right now on just initially this thing up here. It's called the toolbar. Now, I'm on a Mac computer. The toolbar, there are some differences between Windows and a Mac. Windows sort of does everything like these sizing buttons to increase your font size. They'll be over on the left side, and open, close, and minimize a window on a Windows machine is over on the right side, I believe. So they're just different. Now, I created a very short video that I'm going to play for you that deals with the toolbar and how it differs a little bit on a Windows machine, just for those of you that have Windows compared to those that are running a Mac. So let me go ahead and open up that video, and let me go ahead and play that for you. If you're using a Windows machine, you're going to see that there are a few things that are different on it running accordance than on the Mac. So I wanted to show you the main things right up front. First, your toolbar. Your toolbar looks like this, and to customize it, you can right-click on the toolbar, and from here you can customize it, or you can add text to the icons themselves. To customize the toolbar, you select it, and from here, anything that's not shown on the toolbar will be in the left-hand window, and you can add it on the toolbar. Then, once it's in the right window, you can select where you want it to appear. You can move it up, or you can move it down on the window, and it will correspondingly move positions on the toolbar. So that is how you can customize your toolbar. Now, you can also add text to your icons. This takes up more space, but it allows you to see what those icons do. And maybe when you first start off, have fewer icons that are most important along with what they do. The next thing is, on a Windows machine, easy install and check for updates is found underneath Utilities. Simply click on Utilities, and you can see where you can get to easy install, check for updates. You can also synchronize with mobile devices and other computers. Now, if you wanted to set settings and preferences specifically for the Accordance program, you would go to Edit on a Windows machine and go down here to Preferences. Now, on a Mac, you're going to see that it's all in one spot, basically. But I wanted to show you on Windows, Utilities for Content Update and Easy Install, and Edit to get to your preferences or settings for the program. That's what you have to do. Last, on a Windows machine, anytime you want to minimize or close out a window, you'll find them on the right upper side of a window. Whereas on a Mac, you're going to find that these are on the left side of the window. That's all I wanted to show you on the Windows machine for now. Now let's get back to the workshop. All right. So let's take a look at the toolbar real quick. You see on the Mac, I have a couple of things that I've set up. To adjust the toolbar on a Mac, it's mainly a location and a drag and drop. So I right-click anywhere on the toolbar, and then I can customize the toolbar, and it shows me anything that's not grayed out means that I do not have it on the toolbar. Now, you do not need to have all of this stuff on the toolbar. There are a few things that I will add next week that you can do with the Heritage of Faith collection that I would possibly add on. One thing I might add on would be this language thing. To do that, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to decide where I want it to go. And because it's kind of like a tool for me to help with languages, I'm going to just move that right up here and drop it off. And you see that it automatically just stays there. And there's also a thing called a word study that goes along with it. So since those are together, I'll bring that up and drop that off. If you don't want something on here, all you have to do is just grab it and drag it off, and it will disappear. So creating and customizing your toolbar is a bit easier on a Mac than on a Windows, but they both work very well. And I do encourage you to start to learn about some of these icons. Now, I will go through some of them, but for instance, like easy install, we just learned on a Windows machine is under Utilities, and on a Mac, it's underneath Accordance, the pull-down menu of Accordance. So I don't really need that because I can use my pull-down menus. So I start to learn which ones I want to have on my toolbar and which ones I don't. And we'll go through some of those maybe this week and for sure next week. But I'm going to leave that as is. I'm going to say done. And there's my toolbar. On the toolbar, we have a few things. Let me just show you a couple things on how they work. One is you have your library. And so this is your library. And what I'm going to do, this shows me everything that I've recently opened. Remember, I just opened that book, Getting Started with Accordance. And I wonder where that book is found in my library. So I can click here, right click on it. If I right click, I can say, oops, right click, I guess I right click on the book itself, and it should show me in the library, but it doesn't. Well, we'll figure that out in just a bit. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. But in your library, you have your recently opened books, and I'm going to clear them right now. Normally at the top, you have your texts. Those are your Bibles. They can be not just Bibles, they can be anything that was developed by a book, chapter, and verse. So, like, you know how Bibles have, the books of the Bible, and then you can go to the chapter, and then you can go to the verse, right? Well, a lot of these things are organized by book, chapter, and verse. And so that's why they're called texts. And so you're going to see probably everything that you see on my screen here is what is found inside of that heritage collection. And I can show more or I can show less. Then from there, underneath, I have my tools. And under tools, you have dictionaries, you have commentaries, you have um, Greek lexicons, Hebrew study materials, devotionals, cross references. So this is my library. All of the books that are found in the Heritage Collection Library have found their way under their right classification, whether it be history, biblical studies, dictionaries, commentaries, what have you. They're all found in their right place under here. Now, one thing I do want to note about your tools and your texts. What I like to do, and you're going to want to do this, is you're going to want to organize each category by selecting the work that is most popular in your mind for you to use, or the most modern, you might say, too. So I put the ESV at the top. So the ESV might have been down here. So how did I do that? You see how I dragged it? All you do is you click on that work, you hold your left mouse button down, and you see that little line? It's going to show me where I'm dragging it to, and I drag it to the top and I release it. So what I did was I put the ESV, King James, I put all kind of most of my English translations together. And then underneath that, I have sort of some other different ones. Then I wanted to I have all these foreign Bibles. And so what I did was I just, anywhere's within that category, you can right click and you can add a folder. And then you can name that folder. So I could call this something like classics. And then I can add into it, I just click and drag the Perseus. By the way, what is Perseus? Well, we'll learn more about that. But Perseus is not Christian, but it does have things like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, which I read as a Christian, and it really helps you with understanding the debates that were going on with the early church fathers and how Greek philosophy and influence for learning apologetics and defense came into being. So you have classics. Now, I also created one called foreign, so I could move my foreign Bibles into that. And so basically what I'm saying is you can clean up, uh, you know, the category by creating folders, and you can move the folders up or down too. They don't have to be, you can move the folders wherever you want them. Simple to left click and drag it wherever you want it to go. And then I go through my dictionaries and I do the same thing. The ISB, I put at the top. This is 1915, I believe. It's a 5-volume encyclopedia set. We're going to go through that next week. I think I've created some videos on it before, but it covers 9,600 topics from the Bible. And I believe someone had once said that there are 13,000 topics that you could really cover within the Bible. I'm not positive, but something like that. 13,000. ISB covers 9,600. And there are other dictionaries. The closest one that comes next to it, I think, is like the Yale, and it covers 6,400. So the ISB covers an extensive amount of biblical topics. It's really good. And then I do the same thing with commentaries. I move them around based upon, do they cover both the entire Bible in scope, the Hebrew Old Testament Bible, the New Testament Bible, and you just simply move them up or down, and you organize your library depending on how you want it to look. But again, like cream that rises to the top, I would move my favorite works right up to the top, right to begin with. So be aware of that, play with that. and see what and I tell you what, I'm gonna go slowly down this because this is in the video, so you can see how I arranged it. So if you want to arrange your stuff the same way, you can watch the video and you'll be able to arrange your materials the same way that I arranged mine. And so, theological, you have all these writings, just a number of influencers from the first century all the way up to the 19th century. Um, and so, history, biblical studies, other books. So, you have so much material in this collection. It's a wonderful, wonderful collection. So, I hope you can sort of see how I've arranged it, and you can go back in the video and look. Let me also draw your attention. Some things are not books, but they are called like a database, and that's parallels. So parallels give you things that are really helpful when you're studying. And you see how I move this? I can move my cursor onto a line, and I can hold my left button down and drag it so I can adjust my window. You have New Testament epistles that are all, that have verses that are in parallel with each other. You have the synoptic, and I teach a class, and I actually have the students understand what synoptic gospels are. Why is Matthew, Mark, and Luke considered a synoptic gospel? You have harmony of the gospels, parallels of the gospels, Old Testament parallels, quotations in the New Testament, and pericopes are the headings. So, like when it says Jesus feeds the 5,000, or Jesus heals the deaf man, or Moses lifts up the serpent, you have pericopes that you can look at in parallel too. So, there's a lot of wonderful resources within this particular package. So that's your library. You want to be able to go through and customize it, moving your favorite books that you'll use most often to the top. They'll come into play when we start to use them. You'll see why it's important to have them at the very top of your list. Now, let's leave this here. I'm going to close this off, and let's just take a look at some of the icons that are up here right now. You will have a Bible reading program. So right now, you have two devotionals within it. You have a chronological devotional and a devotional reading. And you can just highlight over that. And then down below, oops, it won't let me, oh, I don't want to do that. Let me go back here. I was going to hold my shift key down so I can do that. But you can also just click on these references here, and they will pop up in the window adjacent to you. So you have devotionals. You also have an info pane. So if I have a Bible open, and by the way, you saw that when I had my Bible open, it was the Spanish translation. That's what it was when I first installed it. Now, if I open up the ESV translation and close this off, and then if I was to close the program, oh, it's behind there actually. There it is right there. So if I close this off here, and I put in here the ESV, just to let you know, I'm going to close this off. If I close Accordance and I reopen it, it's going to open, I believe, to my ESV. So let's just close that off. And then if I go down and reopen this, so that's one way to get rid of the Spanish translation. Put the English one in the window, close it out, and Accordance will open it up to what you had in the window last before you closed it. So anyways, that's the ESV. From here, I can add an info pane. Now, an info pane is going to go to my library, and it's going to find commentaries and materials that relate to whatever passage I'm looking at. So let me get back here to Genesis 1:1. By the way, this is my table of contents for Bibles. Table of contents for texts like Bibles and early church fathers. That, again, anything that's book, chapter, and verse has a different table of contents look than a book like a dictionary or a commentary. So just be aware of that. Anyway, so what I'm going to do from here is I'm in Genesis 1, and what I want to do is I want to see what the info pane says. So I click on that, and it opens up my commentaries, and it has all these cross references. It has topical studies, which is, it says here, if you hold your shift key down and click, what it does is it does a topical search for the word beginning, things that deal with that particular topic, not just a cross reference. So you have a bunch of different things that it does. And as fast as you go to any verse, it's right there with you. Now, if you want to see that commentary, you just simply click on it and it opens right up in the window right adjacent to it. If I want to see that one, I can change this one with this one, and it exchanges it out. So you have info pane basically gives you information on whatever verse you're studying very quickly. Let's close that out. I'm not going to do these two because I added them on later. Instant detail, that opens up a screen down at the bottom. And if you point to a word, it gives you the Strong's number, whether it be in Hebrew or Greek, and then the actual Greek or Hebrew word. So, and if there's a subscript there, it will give you the information on that, or super like that little 3 there. So anyway, that's what instant detail does. You can do highlighting. Now, the one thing about the program is that it allows you multiple ways to customize. You can create your own name for your own type of highlight. You can have multiple types of highlighting going on. So you can have, like, favorite verse highlighting or promise highlighting or whatever, and you can have it attached to different translations. User notes, that allows you to go and add a note onto any verse that you're studying, and then save those notes. At any time you want to go back to those notes, you can go back to those notes. And we're going to go through some of that later. Dark mode, if you want to study at night and you don't want to disturb somebody, you can go to dark mode. We're going to look at the web browser as well. But anyway, there are really some really powerful little icons that do a lot for you, that as you learn what they do and what you like, you can put them up on the toolbar and have access to them. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at preferences. Now, initially, I don't like to have all the space on both sides. I want to have just all Bible if I can. So remember, on a Windows machine, I believe that you go to Edit and then down to Preferences. But on a Mac machine, you go to Accordance and you go down to Settings. And the nice thing about the settings here, and I'm going to go through this fairly slow so that if you need to do this on your machine, doesn't matter whether you have a Windows or Mac, the settings will look identical and you can set them up however you want. But I'm going to do all of my settings at one time and then I apply them. I don't have to do one preference and then apply and then go down to another one and apply. I'm going to just go through here and do multiple ones at once. So under general, I'm not going to do all of these. There's only a handful of these that I'm going to show you. So I have it right now so that it goes to my last session. Then that's fine. And then I also just turn on everything that suppresses opening screens and so forth, because I want to just get right into my studies. And open parallel tools and notes and vertical, that's fine. Show stacks when adding items. We're going to talk about stacks, but I don't use stacks a whole lot. But if I was to do research and I had a big library, I would use stacks. And then the main thing I like to do is I like under arrow keys is to change resources and navigate. And that I'll show you how that works, because that to me is important. So that's all. I suppress everything and change resources. That's the main thing. Amplification. I want my dictionary at top. You only have Mounts is Greek. If you want to change it, you can go to Greek, but I'm going to stay with Mounts. Mounts gives me audible Greek, whereas the Strong's doesn't. Now, I don't have an audible Hebrew, but if I want a definition of a word and how it's pronounced in Greek, I use the Mounts Greek Dictionary. And for cross references, I'm going to use Treasure of Scripture Knowledge. And so you can see I have some other things here, but these are the main things that I work on right up here. Under appearances, this is where I want to turn off this extra space. So if you have that, you just want to take that off. I want to have as much space as possible to go. And for me, I like it a little bit larger. So, I'm going to go medium large or large so I can see what I'm looking at because I'm not a young guy. So I can do all of that. And so those are the kinds of things that I would look to do. Let me just make sure under Jen. Yeah, okay. Then I'm going to skip. I'm going to skip. Um, I'm going to skip keyboards, workspaces. It has 4 zones. I go unlimited because if you're using a monitor or TV and you're mirroring to a TV or broadcasting, you can have a whole lot more windows open. So that's the one thing I always like is to make sure that it's unlimited. And that instant detail, you can say it's always added on or that you have to click. So that's what that's for. So the next 2 is important, text display. Okay. So here you can sort of customize it, whether you want to have the words of Jesus in red when you're looking at things, or if you did highlighting, you can turn on your highlights, you can turn off your highlights, you can suppress poetry format, all these different things. No big deal, just play with that however you want to do it. But you can choose whatever font you want, and then you can choose the size you want. I'm going to go a little bit bigger for this class. So I'm going to set it at 30. You can choose whether you want to have paragraph or whether you have verses separated. So every verse is on its own line. So you can choose that. I'm going to go back to paragraphs with spaces between them. The reason for that is I like to see what the thought was for that paragraph. I set my line spacing at, you can move this around. You can have the spacing apart. I'm going to set it like at 30, 35. The reason for it is that within the highlighting tool, you have the ability to put symbols underneath words. Like if you had a promise, you could put a rainbow. Or if you have talking about the Messiah, you could put a crown as a king. So you want to leave enough space between the lines so that you could put symbols underneath it. If any of you have ever taken inductive Bible study, you know that they use symbols. And you can do that within the program, not just color highlight, but you can also put symbols wherever you want underneath the word. So I find that 30 or 35% works really good for that. And then I like my color for my Bibles always to be white. That's just me. Tool display, that's for your dictionaries. I'm not worried about putting symbols underneath the dictionary. I set it at 20. I mean, I could go 10, but 20 is fine. Again, you can set the font to whatever size you want. And also, I have that a little different color so that it separates it from like a Bible text so that I know I'm in a different book other than a text. So I chose book, but you have a variety of things you can choose from on that. Then let's see, Greek and Hebrew. The main thing I have here, I like to look at all my amplified constructs. So I always turn on everything I can within Greek and Hebrew. Um, Also within it's the details. I also turn everything in that I can within instant details. Bibliographies or citations, by the way, you can create or you can choose whatever kind of footnoting you want. SBL footnoting, Turabian footnoting, Chicago footnotes. And next week, when we start to copy and paste, materials out of a resource into a word processor like Word, it automatically creates the footnote at the bottom of the page for you. So you don't have to do that. And it keeps the numbering correct. And it's really pretty neat if you're writing research papers. The other thing that I have is reading and research. I like to, when I do a global search for something, I like to show my results in full text and I like to show the hits in the browser. So, and I also like to sort it by library order. Remember when I said in your library, you put your favorite books at the top. That way, when I do a global search, my favorite books in each category will show up first because I know that's where I'm going to be going to look for information. So that's about all I set up in there. You can play with the other things, but those are the main ones. And then after I get it all set up, I click on OK, and it's going to say it's going to apply it. And now you see I have the bigger font that we had, and everything should be set up. I've eliminated that white space on the side. And if you decide you want to make it smaller, you can just hit the A's. Again, on a Mac, it's on the right side. On Windows, I think it's on the left side. So that's how you can get around in setting your preferences as well. Now let's take a look at the next thing, which is going to be, I'm going to look at the just the Bible window for now, and then we'll take a look at a different type of a resource. So again, if I'm in a Bible and I want to open up another Bible in parallel, well, no, I'm going to stay with one Bible right now. So I have one Bible. How do I get around in my Bible? Well, I can click on the table of contents, and from here, I can go to any place I want to go to, Isaiah 1:1, and there I'm at Isaiah 1:1. Okay. I can go to John 1:1, and just that quick, you can get to John 1:1. It's all in the ESV translation. Now, this is sort of fun. A lot of people don't know about this, and it's not a big deal, but I kind of like it. So let's say I'm reading through this, and I say, you know what? All of this icon bar is sort of a distraction, and this instant detail, like, yeah, I can turn it off, but again, it's sort of a distraction. And so I just want to read the Bible. I don't want to have all this other distraction. So within the Bible window, and this is a tab, and this is a Bible window zone, you can go up here to this little gear. And again, on the windows, it's on the other side. And I'm going to say, I'm going to go into reading mode. And I click on reading mode, and it puts just the Bible in the window for me. And from here, I can also say, you know what? I want it to auto scroll. So I don't want to even touch the keyboard. I just want to read through it, and you can speed it up and you can slow it down, and you can have your Bible auto scroll so that you can look at it while you're without distraction. So I thought I'd point that out to you. That's something you can do in a Bible. I like that. And I think the escape, I just hit escape, and I think that's it. Nope. Okay. So anyway, that's called reading, and it's called into reading mode, and I kind of like that. Now, another thing that I want to do within a Bible is, and we're going to get to this next week too, but every book has its own characteristics. Bibles are for book, chapter, and verse, and for doing searches on a particular word. And so a flex search means that I want to search for, if I search for girl, it might find woman, anything that's feminine, women, woman, girl. If I search so the flex search finds things that are associated with what you're looking for, or very closely similar. You can look for words directly. You can look at these things called pericopes, which are, again, this is a pericope. So you can search those. Now, we're going to get to dictionaries, and you're going to see that they have every dictionary has its own characteristic. Not all dictionaries are the same. Not all commentaries are the same. Not all works are the same. They all have different characteristics. And it's good to know what those characteristics are, because that will help you understand how to use them most effectively. But for a Bible window right now, so I'm looking at a Bible, and a couple of things let's do in the Bible window. Let's add another Bible. So I'm going to go over here to add parallels, and I'm going to go down here to my text, remember, this is the order that I had in my library. So it shows up in the same order here that it did in my library. And I'm going to click on King James, and now King James is synchronized with this. They're both the same. I made that off too big, so let's go back down a little bit more. But you see how they stay synchronized together? So, and you'll also notice that if I highlight a word over here, what happens to the word in the other window? They automatically show you the words and how they're different. If they're different, it's neither or not. So Bethany, in place or done. So anyways, it gives you sort of a cross-linking of the difference in that translation. And that works if they have Strong's tied to them. So they have to have Strong's numbering tied to them to be able to do that. Another thing that you can do within the heritage, I'll just point this out, it doesn't matter. Let's go back here to Genesis. If I'm in Genesis and I'm looking at this, behind the scenes, there's that Strong's number. And remember, if I turn on my instant detail, it shows me a little bit about what that number is and that word. But behind it, that number is a Hebrew word. You see that Hebrew word, bara? So if I click on this thing here, it says interlinear, I can actually show an interlinear with the Hebrew word in it and the Strong's number. So you have the ability, even in this heritage of faith, to be able to open up an interlinear Bible and look at the Hebrew text along with it, which I think is great. And you can add things to it like a gloss, or I could, instead of having the King James over here, I could put the King James right underneath it and see what the words and how they differ. So there's all sorts of things you can do with the interlinear, and as long as it's a Strong's work, you can turn the interlinear on any Bible. So just be aware of that, and you can turn it off as well. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to hide that. I'm going to turn this off because we don't need it right now. So you have the ability to have an interlinear. You also have the ability to do searches, some really phenomenal searches for words, phrases, things like that, and you get really great analytics on them afterwards. But we're going to hold that off till next week. So let's get back to my library. So this is your Bible window. You can add, by the way, parallels, you can add commentaries, cross-references, all sorts of things you can add to that. So for instance, no, we'll just leave that as is. So that's your Bible window. Now let me open up, and we saw how the info pane worked, that you can open up the info pane and open up a commentary to stay synchronized right with it. And that's good for reading, but sometimes you want to open up a commentary separately. And let me show you why. So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to open up, now I'm going to go down to my dictionaries. I'm going to open up the ISB, and I'm going to show you how the table of contents differs in a tool like the ISB from a Bible. So here's a table of contents, and you see here I have everything listed from A to Z. So if I wanted to find something on Paul, I like this. This is great. So if I want to find something on Paul, I type in Paul, but look at all the places it finds Paul. Now I know I'd find, if you or me, if we went to the encyclopedia, we'd pull out the volume that has the P and we'd go right to the information that deals with Paul, right? And so I'd go down all the way, get the book out, and I'd look at Paul the Apostle, and I'd read all about Paul the Apostle. But look at all the other places that deal with allegory's use of the story by Paul. Look at all these different things throughout this encyclopedia where Paul was one of the main headings. And so if you're doing a study on Paul, you're going to find a lot of great materials that's relevant by looking at everything other than the article on Paul. So be aware that the table of contents within a regular book, you can type something in, you get a lot of great information without actually going to that topic specifically initially. Now, I mentioned characteristics. A Bible had flux searches, word searches, verse searches, and pericope searches. This button right here on this address bar tells me what kind of characteristics a dictionary is used for. Now, a dictionary, I'm going to close this. Dictionary would be used for an entry, right? You want to type in Paul. So I could type in Paul and go just like I did on the table of contents, hit enter. It's going to find 59 hits on Paul. That's just like going through the table of contents and going through each one. But now I have to go hit, next hit, next hit, next hit, all the way down till I get to the letter P for Paul. So you could do that. But that's what a dictionary was created for, was an entry on a topic. But what other characteristics does this particular dictionary encyclopedia have? Well, I can do an English content. That means it's not finding the heading, but it's finding a word within a paragraph. You can look for scripture, transliteration, Greek content, Hebrew, other languages, bibliographies, authors, captions. All of these different types of searches make up the characteristic that's found in the ISBE. So look at all of those. Let's open up another dictionary. Let's open up the one next to it, Easton's. What kind of characteristics does it have? So I can open that up, and this tab here allows me to drag it, and I can move it over so that it's adjacent. But let's look at its characteristics. It has entry. It has entry. But it has content, scripture, it has quite a few things, but it doesn't have Greek or Hebrew, does it? So this one allows me to do a little bit more lookups than this one. So every characteristics, if you want to learn the characteristics of a book, open it and take a look at this little button here. It may not say entry, it might say reference, it might say something else, but that's what you want to do, is you want to look at its characteristics and so forth. So let's go down here to commentaries. Let's open up a commentary. And what is a commentary created for? Commentary was created to give a comment or interpretation or an application or especially information related to a book chapter, to a book of the Bible. So I'm going to open up the table of contents, and let's say I want to go to Genesis. I can jump right to Genesis, and I'm in that chapter of Genesis. Now, the interesting thing with commentaries, it tells you a little bit about how the work began, but a lot of commentaries start off with, and I'll get to that, not just a commentary, but it'll tell you the date of authorship, the theme, a few other details that would be helpful to get a good overview of that particular book. So commentaries, how are they created? Well, they are a reference work. They were created initially to give you information on a Bible reference, but they also can do titles. So I can type in, I don't know if it'll work. I can type in Paul or Peter. It has Peter, doesn't have Paul. And it has, because it's going to the book of Peter. Okay, so titles, English content, scripture. So similar, but these are its characteristics. So again, you're going to want to take a look at the characteristics of each of the books that are found within your library. And again, you're going to want to move stuff around. Okay, now, another thing that you can do in the program, and again, I'm so tempted to just start jumping into a lot of the content, but one thing that the program allows as well is if I open up a Bible, I might as well go ahead and do this. To open up a Bible, you just go to your library and you double click and it'll open up. So that's how you open up a work from your library. And I have it set so it automatically opens up an info pane, but I don't really want it to do that. If I'm in this window here, it's called a web browser. And something that I'll make sure that we can get to you all is I created, you can create your own books. Like I said, you can create your own highlighting, names for different types of ways you want to highlight, and for translations you want to highlight to. You can create your multiple types of user notes. You can have user notes called Richard's user notes, application user notes, analytical user notes. You can create user tools. You can create books, and you can copy stuff and create a book easily right from the web that will be ingested into the program, or you can create your own. So under web browsers, I didn't want to do that. It opens up a web browser right within the program. So what I did was I said, that's cool. So I created a user tool called My Favorite Web Browser Tools. And from here, I can go into the Bible project, and I created my own table of contents. So I have in here Bible book overviews, audio Bibles, graphics, ministries and institution, preaching, prophecy. And so, and if you want to add materials in, you can just click on any spot you want, open it up. You can type whatever you want in, save it, and it's done, and you're good to go. So you can create your own user tools with links to Bibles or to websites, all sorts of things. And the neat thing about it is that when you're in a site, so if I go down here to preaching, let's see, maybe I don't, let me go, yeah, let's go here. So if I'm in a work down here and I'm on the internet and I say a word here, I can right click on that and I can say, look that up in my dictionaries. And it will go, even though I'm on the website, it will look up the dictionaries that I have in accordance to give me information on that particular type word. So that's pretty cool. So anyways, I created this thing called a web browser, and under user tools, if you guys want that, it's just easy. We just send it to you in an email. You double click on it and it will automatically install itself into Accordance. So that's something to be aware of, is this little web browser. You can do a lot with that, and also with your user tools, you can create stuff, which is sort of cool. Now, the other thing that I want to show just real quick, I'm going to go, one thing you're going to have to learn to do, and it took a while for me to get to learn to do this. If I want to do a study, I'm used to double clicking, but that doesn't do anything but highlight the word. In Accordance, you've got to learn to do a three left clicks really right together. So if I do click, 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 it opens up my Strong's definition to that word, and I can take a look at it. Now, if I'm in the New Testament, like I mentioned earlier, if I go to Romans and I'm looking at a word and I go click, 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 it opens up my New Testament Greek word, and you see the symbol here, doulos, and it pronounces that Greek word for you. So any word in the New Testament you go to, 1, 2, 3, dia, you can get pronunciation along with your definition. So the thing that I'm telling you is you're going to have to learn to do a triple click on certain items in order to get the information to automatically open up for you. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you too, remember in my Bible, my library, I have the ESV followed by the King James, followed by this. So remember underneath my Accordance preferences, I did the thing where it said, let me just show you under settings. I think it was here under, under the first one, change resources and navigate. So you see that? I have that turned on. So like if I click anywhere in this window and you see my cursor flashing there, I'm in Romans, but right now I'm in the ESV. If I now have it set up, all I have to do is use my right arrow key on my keyboard, and it's going to go to the next Bible down, which was the King James. And if I hit it right arrow again, it goes to the Douay-Rheims, and the next one again, and the next one again, and the next one again. So again, that's what it does when you are able to navigate with just your arrow keys on your keyboard. And the same thing is true if I was in a dictionary and I was on Paul. Let's see, let's find something else here. Let's do Abraham. So if let's see how well it works. So if I'm in Abraham, I want to make sure that I'm in truly in Abraham. Okay. If I click on that window and use my right arrow key, it should take me to the Easton's on Abraham because that was number 2. Right click again should take me to Smith's on Abraham, and so forth. So you can go back and forth all the way to Abraham. Oh no, that's I just get excited about some of these things that are in the program. So next week we're going to take a look at a couple things. We're going to look at the content, and I'm going to focus in on content that really helps you to understand each book of the Bible. That'd be things like Bible outlines, because it has a really good Bible outline in it. So I want to find the Bible outline in the program. I type in outline, and here are outlines of books of the Bible, table of contents, and I can see through my outlines the major events that happen. So if I'm writing a summary on that and with key people and places, I can see that creation, Adam and Eve, sin, it all started in the first 10 verses, and then after that, it's all about Abraham. The rest of the books of that particular book. So you can expand these out, and it's just outlines are really good to have. So we're going to take a look at using outlines, dictionaries, encyclopedias, but more importantly, I think next week we're also going to focus in on the early church fathers and why they help one understand how to frame an argument, how to look at it logically with reason, and then how to debate that particular stance, knowing and what kind of questions might be asked of you in debating it, so that you would know the answer before it was even asked of you. So the early church fathers provide a wonderful amount of, and apostolic fathers, of reasoning, logic, and apologetics, as well as theology. So we're going to take a look at that next week. And we'll look at how to use some of these other tools, and as well as we'll look into how to do searches, like with what are called Boolean searches, and or not, periods, equal signs, all sorts of things that are fun to do with searches, and how to use the analytics. But I think that's more than enough for tonight on just the getting around within accordance. I guess I can show you one more thing, although it goes toward next week. This research button here, you can choose whether you want to use English, Greek, Hebrew, Syriac, if you're going to search by verse, image, all, text, or tools. So if I wanted to search for Paul, I would search Paul, and I would say I want English, and I just want my tools. I don't want to do all the Bibles. I just want my tools on Paul. I hit enter, and remember, I had it say that my favorite dictionaries would come up on top. So there I have, through my entire library, information that deals with Paul, all the way through, on anything that deals, with Paul, from all these different resources. So for a real quick global search on something that you want to do, you'll find it says 807. Well, you get a lot of hits. What you have to become good at is saying this is important, this is not. You become I'm not a good reader, but you become much quicker at reading through things. So, Linda, I hear you typing, I think. So anyway, that's as far as we're going to go tonight. I know that it was very basic. I just wanted to go through some of the navigations. I want you to play with the program. If you don't have the Heritage Library, you should get it. It's free. If you have somebody that that might enjoy that wealth of information for free, now's the time to get it. Accordance, I believe, is a premier Bible program that is like a Bentley or a Lamborghini. It does a lot more than I'll ever use. And really, once you get to learn it, it's pretty intuitive, and you can get to the information very quickly, and you get to not just information, but good information very quickly. So with that, I'll open up to some questions. Linda, can I stop the recording?
Yes.